Sophie Howe is a woman on a very specific mission.
To hold the government to account and call them out when they're perhaps not acting in the interests of future generations.
She was Wales's first commissioner for those future generations, the only such position in the world. The job? To make sure government and public institutions are putting their descendants at the forefront of all their decisions.
Wales really has a template to share with the rest of the world, a template which could be used in the United Nations, could be used by other governments.
Now, Sophie's here to let us know why the rights of future Aussies have never been more important.
Please welcome Sophie Howe. So this is a fascinating idea. I mean, future generations, it's like you have a constituency that doesn't yet exist.
Yeah, they don't talk to me very often, actually.
The correspondents be very quiet. Why is it needed?
Well, if we think about some of the massive challenges that we're facing, so climate change, automation, artificial intelligence, although Steve might not be down with Alexa, a lot of our future generations are what we call digital natives. So, but what are the impacts of that on our jobs and on livelihoods and so on? And the problem with kind of politics and government is that it's endemically short term. So we only think from one electoral cycle to the next. And that's why we never solve some of these big issues like climate change, because we're only thinking in, 5-year cycles or maybe even less. So having someone who's saying, hello, I'm the conscience of the unborn, a bit weird, I know, but actually really important about some of those long-term issues.
But if you are the conscience of the unborn, by default, they don't exist yet. So how do you then be able to put on the goggles of that constituency that isn't here and look into the future and see what they want and know what they want? How do you design policies for that?
Yeah, absolutely. So, of course, I can't predict what future generations want, but in Wales, what we did was we held a national conversation with the existing citizens of Wales, and we said, what's the Wales you want to leave behind to your children, your grandchildren and future generations to come? And the people of Wales said, well, actually, our natural environment's really important. We believe in fairness. There's things about our language and our culture and our heritage, which we want to pass on to next generations. So looking at that and all of these future trends and scenarios, which, climate change, predictable, and so on, we looked at those and we said, OK, this is our best guess of the Wales that we want to leave behind. And so we've got a set of these 7 long-term goals, and that's what our government and our other public institutions have to work towards.
Do the average people of Wales think this is a bit woo-hoo?
Well...
like me?
You think it's a bit woo-hoo?
Technical term.
Any idea what woo-hoo
Well, I'll take a stab at woo-hoo. I don't think they think it's woo-hoo. I think they're thinking, hang on a minute, this is about, I don't know if you're a granddad, Steve, or a bampy, as we would say in Wales, but if you were, you'd probably be thinking about what about my grandchildren? And, are they going to have a planet to live on? What types of jobs they're going to have? Are they going to ever be able to buy a house like perhaps you were able to buy? So I think when we connect it to, our grandchildren and so on, and then there's a next generation and next generation, people do start to think, actually, this planet that we live on is not ours to just trash, it's ours to pass on to the next generation and do that responsibly.
Do you ever worry that you might get it wrong, though? Because it's like, you don't know what people are going to think. Like, I know there was the big road thing in Wales. I follow Wales politics very closely.
Well done. Excellent.
But it's like, what if the future generations want roads? We don't know. They might be big on roads. Let's see, Neighbours is a perfect example, right? It got cancelled. People thought they didn't want it, but it turns out they want it, so they brought it back.
Well, I tell you what, if I was Future Generations Commissioner for Australia, Neighbours would never have been cancelled. Absolutely not.
Big fan.
Big fan, big fan. That was kind of after school, feet up, Ramsay Street on. Right. Yeah, that was my generation, yeah.
But do you ever worry about that you might be getting it wrong? It's kind of a game of predicting.
It is a game of predicting, but look, there are these existential threats. So we can say, we might want a road because we all like to drive our cars and so on. But actually, if you apply what we call a wellbeing lens, it's much better for us to use public transport because that reduces our emissions. It's much better for us to walk and cycle or scoot or skate or whatever you might want to do because that's better for our health. We've got these long-term trends around obesity. 26% of kids in the UK are overweight or obese. I imagine it's similar here in Australia. And that's bad. That's really bad for the next generation. So, no, we can't absolutely predict, but we can think there are these particular issues, these big, big challenges where we can have a pretty good guess at what future
so identifying the
things
things politics is kind of blind to.
Absolutely.
It's fascinating. Been fascinating to have a chat. Please thank Sophie.
Thank you.